am very glad to have y'all joining us here on the Friday for a big kick of a little bit of professional development, if you will, although we all know this is personal development too, and might even be just more relevant to your daily life. I was really looking forward to this, and I couldn't have got a more motivating text message. Like, I'm not even joking. It is 12 o'clock where I am, and I got this at 11:40. My niece messaged me saying that her teacher, she's in grade 9, her teacher put on a video today. She knew straight away that that was her Auntie B and the center because it was the TED Talk about social media and mental health. And so it was kind of like a motivating message for me to remind me and us that the stuff that we do for a living, all of you here, and the stuff that we put online that we think who knows is going to see, does end up in someone's classroom. And it is more rare than it is not that we actually know it happened. There was a bit of motivation that what we're doing here really does matter. Today, we're talking what is digital well-being in the first place, and on earth does it connect to people in their daily lives? I know some of you here, so I know that you come to this from different points of view. Some is research, some policy, some just we are passionate about this ourselves. I'm going to give you a little bit of intro and context, and then I'm going to talk with my friend Tyler Rice from the Digital Wellness Institute for a short podcast style interview, and then we'll do a bit of an integration discussion. We are open to multiple perspectives. The thing about digital well-being and the subcomponents of it is that it does affect everyone. And that means that there are even differing opinions on how to approach digital well-being in a policy space, how it links up with the world of health and well-being in the first place, mental health policy. These are things that there are a lot of different people have a lot of different perspectives on. So if there is a perspective that is shared that is wildly different than yours, and maybe even if we get into a place where it borders on oppression or offensiveness, then we will call in instead of call out, because this is exactly where people come to learn. This is the spaces that we create. This is where you do the learning, right? So that's what we remember in our spaces. And the other thing is that when you start talking about digital well-being, can't forget that well-being portion of it. I am Bailey Parnell, and the reason why we are starting this is because we had a nonprofit that started officially in 2020, but I've been doing this work since about 2014, researching what started as social media's impact on mental health and has since expanded to the world of digital well-being because, well, for reasons that are not very surprising. Suddenly it went on beyond to the way other things besides social media affect well-being, and then it also went beyond other parts of well-being to things like society and democracy and how does it all play together. So in the series of these that will come quarterly, short discussions, I will probably talk less at the future ones, and we will cover topics like online privacy, misinformation, fake news, sleep and screen time, work-life balance in a digital world, generative AI, which is what my current research focuses on. And you know what? Even things like that have come up about relationship between social media and eating disorders has come up a few times to us recently. So we might do more focused discussions like that and learning stuff. Whereas Safe Social was about helping people understand social media and their well-being, now we've kind of expanded to a holistic sense of well-being. And the mission of the Center for Digital Wellbeing is to educate, empower, and advocate for an informed use of technology that enhances rather than detracts from our humanity. And that could be detracting from any part of our well-being, physical, spiritual, financial. Honestly, we envision a world where individuals are equipped with the knowledge, support, and tools to harness the benefits of technology responsibly. I myself am quite literally right now the benefit of what this technology can do to serve our connection, serve our learning, and serve our communities. So that's what we're working towards. I know a bunch of you are in that too, leading to healthier, more connected, more empowered communities. We will set the standard for understanding and navigating this very complex digital landscape with our research, our advocacy support, and other things like this, small, big. Honestly, we've done things globally. We've done things with 2 people, so we're here for it. Now, what is digital well-being and how does it connect to me? There are many different definitions of digital well-being. UNESCO says it's to enhance the improvement of human well-being in the intermediate and long term through the use of digital media. So they would say that digital media is to serve other parts of well-being. The conscious use of technology, which enables individuals and communities to realize their potential. I love it. Using technology in a positive way that supports physical and mental health. There are many different approaches to this. I always say, as I've just noted, that we like to use technology to enhance rather than detract from well-being, and that technology should support our shared humanity. There's a million people we could talk with, but I first thought of my friend Tyler Rice. who is over at the Digital Wellness Institute. We obviously share a lot of things in common, and I've been connected with the Wellness Institute through Tyler and Amy and Nina and the rest of those folks for a few years now. And this ecosystem is really wide and really vast, and I'm so glad that you're here. I'm going to turn off my slides now and welcome Tyler. So Tyler, welcome.
Thank you, Bailey. Thanks, everybody. It's great to be here with you all.
Do you want to explain kind of the classic how you spend your time? What are you doing with your life at the Digital Wellness Institute?
That is a big question. But yes, I'm happy to. So hi everybody again. My name is Tyler Rice. I live in New York City, originally from the Midwest in Minnesota, but moved out here for grad school and have stayed. So I love it out here. I love the community. I love being able to walk everywhere. I love not being able to drive or not having to drive in my car to the grocery store. And anyways, it's something that actually makes me feel digitally balanced, digitally well, because I'm out there and I'm in the community, and it's something that really resonates with me. Um, More broadly speaking, what I do at the Digital Wellness Institute is I am really leading kind of their strategic partnerships and initiatives, both for universities and for employers. And at the very root of this, the very heart of it, is I'm trying to really turn people onto the idea that digital balance and digital well-being is something that is actually a strategic, organizational, and operational strategy. It's a benefit to people rather than a detriment. And I don't face as much resistance in the university setting. Sometimes I do in the corporate setting, right? Especially in the United States and in Canada,
Okay.
right? We live in a society where time is money. And there is still this belief that time not spent connected or working is revenue lost. And I'm really challenging that belief. I'm really coming to this with the frame of mind that we need to make a drastic change in the way in which we are connected in virtual and remote spaces. And I actually do believe, truthfully, that the organizations of the future that strike a balance between kind of productivity and flourishing, those are the ones that are going to they're going to get ahead of the game moving forward. So that's what I do at a 1,000-foot level, and I'm excited to dive into it more.
Well, you know what? We're going to take it from 1,000 to 500 to 250. So over the course of our short little time here, you know what? Let's rewind and say, how does the Digital Wellness Institute define digital well-being? Like, what's your approach to it? We saw a couple of others, but what are you working with over there?
So there are so many definitions, and I think that's awesome. The way that we come to it is we define it as the optimum state of health, well-being, and productivity that each individual using technology is capable of achieving. So for us, the main approach and the main differentiator is that we're not looking at the harms of technology, right? We're not looking at how it impacts us in a negative way. We're actually flipping the script and coming at it from a positive psychological approach to understand how can technology promote the feelings of flourishing, and how can we capitalize on that to actually reorient and kind of use technology in a way that really benefits us instead of detracting from our well-being.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I love about that, and I think we share this idea that I'm already starting to see a trend, is that there is this thing called well-being that existed before digital. There were many different parts of it. I love how you worded it there, that anyone who uses technology can be well. And like that's the audience. If you use technology, there's a wellness component, period. And we've probably got a part of it for you.
Yes, and to that point, Bailey, too, it's not something that's innate. It's like you don't either have it or you don't. It's something that can be learned, and it's something that like can be built over time.
That's right. I mean, it's a skill. So then, that human aspect of it, I find that in this field, there is something that brought a lot of people here. They often have a moment or, a kind of a kindred connection with someone, or they themselves have gone through something that was terrible and related to the digital world. So what was your background and journey? Like, how did you end up in this world of digital well-being that is certainly not a course that you can take at school right now?
Mhm. How long do you have? So
Oh, yeah, eh?
let's start from the beginning. So actually, so I'm writing a book right now, and the book is called Tactical Disconnection, and I'm actually recounting my journey
Fun.
to wellness through this story, and I'll just kind of reshare this story with you. So in 2012, I took a year off between high school and college, and during that time, I was actually living on a sailboat, and I was 8 hours ahead of my friends back here in the U.S. And again, in 2012, we didn't have like satellite, internet. We weren't like super connected. So when I was out at sea, I was truly disconnected, right? I didn't have the ability, despite my earnest desire, to be in contact and in constant connection with my friends and hearing about all their happenings, back in college or what have you. Yet, when I reached port with my family, who I was with at the time, I had the opportunity to derive those incredible benefits from that connectivity, right? To be able to FaceTime with my friends back home and, follow my favorite sports teams and whatnot. So I felt that I really embodied that feeling of flourishing, right? Getting the most out of technology and reaching that optimal state of health and well-being and connectedness rather than feeling like that constant drip, drip, drip of overconnectedness. And it's
Mhm.
something it stuck with me. And frankly, I've sought to recreate that ever since. When I reflect on that progression, I did that. I went to university, and then right out of university, I started in a very fast-paced kind of corporate consulting environment that I credit with actually showing me why there's a business case to why we need to disconnect and why we need
Mm.
digital wellness. And I had the value and the benefit of being in a healthcare consulting role. And I had two roles that completely changed my mind about this. And the first was at a innovation hub with a Silicon Valley tech company. And what we were trying to do is we were trying to figure out why providers were so burnt out. At the time, burnout was incredibly high amongst the providers. What we
No,
found was
still
that
is.
it still is. And
Mhm.
what we found was that the electronic medical record, the EMR, was so cumbersome that it was actually resulting in so much fatigue, so much overwhelm. Frankly, they were taking their work home with them. Like a doctor was taking their work home with them. And we don't normally think of that as being like a work from home kind of a job.
No,
Um,
no.
but so much like the personal aspect of that experience that used to be a little bit more, I don't know, face to face is now like, I'm looking at my screen if I'm a provider and I'm furiously typing the notes
Mhm.
while we're working together. So that showed me that screen time and frankly the lack of digital flourishing or wellness in a professional setting can be something that needs to be remediated, and it's a cause of stress that when fixed can be a benefit to the employees. The second one was as a predictive claims analyst. And so I was
Hmm.
honestly a glorified PowerPoint creator. I made some
Oh, yeah.
pretty
I
sweet
have
PowerPoint.
learned so much about American healthcare over this last year and a half. Like, don't even get me going.
Fascinating, fascinating. But I did have the benefit of seeing all of the nation's largest self-insured employers' claims data and then creating a PowerPoint to show what their projected number one cost was going to be over the next 10 years
Mhm.
so that they could devise, employee wellness strategies to really reduce that. And it was mental health, right? In 2016, mental health was overtaking chronic COPD as the number one spend. And so all of these employers were spending money and throwing like benefits like spaghetti on a wall to
Mm.
see what would help with employee mental health. But frankly, they were missing the mark from my perspective, right? Because they were
Mhm.
giving us fancy gym memberships and meditation apps and all of this. Meanwhile, they were really requesting and needing greater connectivity from us, right? And so while it was great that I had this, amazing meditation app or fancy gym
Mhm.
membership, my connectivity increased so much over that time. And I felt like that was the true cause of my work-related dissatisfaction, burnout, old feelings of mental health degradation. And so that's something that I just really thought that there's a business case that needed to be changed.
Oh, 100%. I mean, one of my main areas right now, which is about how digital culture is workplace culture. And so now I can affirm what you're saying, and you can take this with you as kind of early stage research, if you will. But I've been in five most recent rooms of 100 people each, and y'all will find this interesting. I ask them, how much time, first off, how are you hybrid? Are you remote? And all that jazz. And we'll get over 90% cross industry are at least hybrid, or half their people are in person and half their people are working remote. And even still, that's a trick because that's a hybrid organization. But then I ask them, how much time do your people spend in digital spaces? And now it's well over 1,000 people. Again, it's anecdotal for me, but I'm telling you that it's 80 for 80. Over 80% of people are spending over 80% of their time in digital spaces, saying like, oh, email, video chat, all this time. So to your point, digital culture is your workplace culture. If you're not considering how this affects well-being, you're not considering well-being. One thing I really love about Digital Wellness Institute that I think is useful for people is the digital flourishing model.
Mhm.
And I like how it's broken down into not just the world of, say, social media where we started, but that there's all these other areas of digital can affect your well-being too.
Yeah.
I want to show them the model, but can you also explain the digital flourishing model to us?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the digital flourishing model originated from our director of research. Her name is Dr. Sophie Janneke Bolz. She's a professor at Chapman University. And so her and her team of researchers and colleagues wanted to set out to create a scale that could actually measure human flourishing in these digital screen-based spaces. They created a scientifically validated measurement that actually does this. It allows individuals to take a survey and understand what is my level of digital flourishing. They had 5 dimensions, and what we did
Mhm.
was we at the Digital Wellness Institute added about 3 more. So we got productivity, environment, communication, relationships. And what this does, Bailey, is this reorients kind of our traditional notions of well-being and employee well-being in the spaces that I often work in. And it reorients those around the impact that screen time has on each of those different domains. So if we look at something like productivity, right, we're really thinking not necessarily how does technology detract from my productivity, but
Mhm.
when do I use technology to actually have the highest levels of focus, the lowest levels of interruptions, the lowest levels of multitasking, and the greatest level of work-life balance? When do I have the most controlled and intentional use of my digital devices, my applications, my social media, etc.? When do I feel the lowest amount of FOMO? And when do I not use it to avoid escaping from reality? So again, a positive psychological approach grounded in a scientifically validated scale that we're now bringing to more companies and organizations and universities.
Yeah, there's so much on here. And what I wanted to do with everyone here is I wanted to get your take on which one we should talk more about. Because I have my ideas here about which ones I'm interested in this wheel. I want you to click the area that you would most like me to talk to Tyler about. Now, these boxes are where I will see people's pop in. Okay, maybe we'll split. Well, this would make sense. Mental health. And interestingly, productivity is coming up as a big one. And I love this because I'm very personally into peak performance. Productivity, enhancing focus, managing distractions, tech literacy, navigating technology with ease, work-life balance. Now remember, productivity here in the flourishing wheel is how you be well. So it's not always what's going wrong. But how can digital most negatively affect productivity? How do you see that play out?
Yeah, I would say most negatively in kind of our focus and our flow. And so much research has been done on this topic. I'm sure this is nothing new to those in this audience, but Dr. Gloria Mark has done incredible research around the peak flow states. And frankly, the way that we conduct business now on Slack and on Teams and basically even email, we're really introducing a lot of opportunities for disruption or interruption into our peak flow times, right? Those periods of creativity and productivity where we are just on that other level. For a creator, that's so important for me, right? For artists, that's so important. Frankly, for anybody, that is so, so important. And the research shows that when we are really diverting our attention across multiple different apps and platforms, we actually reduce our cognitive functioning by about 10%. Dr. Mark has also said that when we get into a state of flow and we have an interruption, it takes us on average about 13 minutes to get
Wow.
back to that state of awareness that we had prior to that interruption. And then last but not least, one of the stats that I always find fascinating is that after I pick up my phone or something because I got a message, I'm actually 50% more likely to pick up that phone again in the next 3 minutes. So it's like this constant drip,
Mm.
drip, drip, this constant state of interruption that if we can find ways to use technology to create more separation, to tactically disconnect, as I'm writing about, we can promote those periods of deep work and frankly, get more done in less time, right? So much of our days have gotten increasingly long because of these interruptions. At the Digital Wellness Institute, we've actually measured that employees today are spending about 11.8 hours on screen related to work
Mm.
or related to work each day. It's about a 47.5% increase if we were to assume that prior to this state of connectivity, employees were just working an 8-hour day. So our workdays have gotten longer, in part, I believe, due to the number of distractions that we have during the workday.
What then would be the easiest thing you could do to manage those distractions?
Yeah. So first and foremost, we need to bring awareness to it sounds ironic, but we need to understand how the systems that we use, the settings can be reconfigured to actually promote focus and deep work. So from the technical side of things, what we're
Mhm.
doing at the Institute is we're actually teaching companies how their employees can go into Slack, how they can go into Teams, how they can limit some of those push notifications and all those things that frankly just come standard on the platform to
Mhm.
really curate our own kind of settings and our preferred preferences. That's on the tech side. But Bailey, I think one of the most important parts about this then is actually on the human to human side. So in teams, we need to have a dialogue. We need to create a kind of a communications charter, so to speak, where we have come together to mutually define periods of deep work where, Bailey, if you're on my team and I know that you are most productive between, let's just say 9 a.m. and noon, I'm not going to set up meetings with you. And if something's not urgent, I'm not going to ping you. We need to talk about that. We need to bring that to the forefront of the conversation. We need to frame it in regards to how can we increase our productivity? How can we get
Mhm.
more out of technology and out of ourselves by just having mutually agreed upon kind of terms of understanding?
Well, you know what? It seems so simple. It seems like, hey, I think that there's a lot of leaders that literally don't know how to set the settings on the
Yeah.
back end of their team's account. But I can completely see how that would change daily interactions incredibly, and how little things like before we did have, I'm just getting me thinking, like standards of communication about when you could call someone or what, you said in a voicemail or these things, but these standards don't inherently exist for people right now. And I love that you're going in and saying, well, let's set them and let's set them here with you right now, it sounds like.
Can I geek out for a moment?
Yeah, of course. Love that.
So I'm creating a new product right now, and it's called Balance Finder. So what it is, it's a strength-based assessment focused on individuals' communication preferences, their communication styles, their communication strengths. And what we know from the research from our work is that each individual's communication styles show up differently in digital spaces. So Bailey, I don't know about you, but I'm somebody that if given the opportunity, I'm gonna want to get on like a quick huddle or a quick call with somebody to answer just a few short questions. Just say you're on my team and you're not. Like you would actually rather I take time to write those down and you're gonna get to it when you get to it, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't want that imposition of me just ringing you up and calling you, right? So we've set out there's 32,000 unique combinations actually of personas, and it all boils down to about 8 different personas that broadly map to the
Fun.
coaching wheel. And just wanted to plug that because I'm so excited about that. It's going to be launching in just a couple of weeks here, and I envision that, and I hope that teams will coalesce around that sort of a tool to better
Mm-hmm.
understand how they can work together in these virtual and remote environments.
Obsessed with it, love it. In 2 weeks, I'm going to be the first one using it if I can. I mean, if you have like a B2C subscription for us here, we send it to me. I'm going to send it to everybody who was on this because I just know that we would all geek out over our own, but then also maybe bring it back to our teams and start seeing how people are acting and where they would fit. There's a lot of benefit that can come from that. Let's do a couple more. I'm going to actually go over to digital citizenship here
Yeah.
because I find this one incredibly interesting. We've got privacy and security, digital identity and footprint, civil mindful interaction, digital activism, conscious content consumption. The reason why is because there's a lot of this stuff about productivity that I think might even overlap with digital citizenship at some point. But when you're dealing with this and you're going into whether it's companies or the kind of open to the public stuff that you do, what is the greatest concern around this area of digital flourishing?
I think digital DE&I is the first thing that comes up. I think so many of our clients say, hey, we want help crafting kind of a DE&I strategy or policy, but we want to curate it specifically for the digital realm, the digital environment. I would say that is the number one thing that we're seeing. Inherent in this, though, is the feeling of kind of inclusivity and belonging, and really thinking about how we can create those feelings and cultivate digital inclusivity and belonging in remote first environments, and especially for teams that are distributed and truly 100% remote. One of the most important parts of the wheel, Bailey, because
Mhm.
of its impact on exactly that.
I did want to ask you also about your certification
Yeah.
because I just thought this was the most interesting thing, and I think it might have something to do connected with the Balance Finder. But recently, y'all, the Digital Wellness Institute partnered with Fast Company to say, "Hey, we might come in and certify your business to be digitally well." And there's a lot of things that can go into and outside of a certification, but what I like about it a little bit is that kind of connected to that digital citizenship that there's at least somebody making you think about it. That you could have some element of it where companies are like, even if they're only doing it because it makes them look good in recruiting, great, I don't care. You should do it anyways. That's kind of my approach to it. So then tell us how this certification came to be and like, what is it? What can we go tell people to do with their businesses?
This has been so long in the works, Bailey. Like, this is frankly something that I thought about 3 years ago, and we created so many
Mm,
iterations of it. And then we finally found a great partner in Fast Company to bring publicity to these organizations. And so, what the program is, think about great places to work, but specifically for remote, hybrid, and frankly, screen-bound employees.
Mhm.
Not knocking the Great Place to Work, because I think it's a brilliant, brilliant assessment, brilliant index, and obviously world-renowned, but it hasn't changed in 30 years, right? And think about how much of our work lives have absolutely been upended and changed, given the advent of, the ability to just work wherever, whenever. And so what we've done is we've created an index, a scientifically validated index that is only about 15 questions. And what it does is it's an employee wellness survey, goes out to companies, and what it measures is three different dimensions. It's the level of screen balance that those employees feel, their ability to focus on kind of effective management of their screen time, digital inclusion and belonging, so balance and belonging. It just addresses, again, the sense of inclusivity and connection that they feel in those digital environments. And then third is boundaries. So it's balance, belonging, and boundaries. And boundaries pertain to the establishment and maintenance of healthy digital limits within the organization. And so the coolest thing about this is not only that it's grounded in kind of the scientific validation, but also that it frankly shows the companies why it's so important to talk about this issue and why they should have it. So what we found was that a 10% increase in digital balance in the index actually leads to corresponding decreases in burnout, increases in NPS, decreases in mental health claims, as well as an increase in kind of employees wanting to work for that organization. So again, getting back to the very heart of this, showing why it's a benefit to businesses rather than just like a nice to have. It's a need to have.
Perfect, because for everyone here, you don't need to work with or for the Digital Wellness Institute to be able to say like, hey, here's what their finding certifications do. When a company says this is important, we can all use that data in our work and say, well, it's working over here. And all they've done is put some intention behind it, which is what we are going to do right now. So Tyler, thank you for coming and for sharing some of your stuff, because digital well-being is important to us. And it really is, I think, truly the fundamentals of just well-being period in the future. So thank you for sharing your time.
Thanks so much for having me, and looking forward to the Q&A.
I want to bring up Rachel now. She's a member that's worked with me at the center for a while.
Hey everybody, I'm Rachel and I am a educational content producer with the center. Today we're going to do a little digital routine awareness check. So I want to start by just inviting everybody to turn off their cameras and close their eyes. And we're going to start by taking a deep breath. And we're going to start thinking about days that we experience. So let's imagine the start of your day. Are you awakened by the glow of the morning light seeping through your curtains, or by the sound of your morning alarm beeping, nudging you to start your day? As you do open your eyes to greet the day, what is the first thing that you reach for? Perhaps it's a familiar object or an extension of your daily routine guiding you through your day ahead. Visualize yourself entering the kitchen. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee is teasing your senses. Are you solely focused on making breakfast, or are other things occupying your mind? When sitting down to eat your meal, are you sitting in silence? What accompanies you as you eat? Are you distracted by other things? Now let's fast forward to midday. You find yourself immersed in work tasks, and the feeling of the weight of fatigue is settling in. During a brief break, what do you engage in? Now imagine standing in line at a bustling subway station or in a cafe, enveloped by the rhythm of the city and the people around you. How are you passing this time? How do you pass the waiting time with each passing moment? And as evening descends and dinner is but a memory, you find yourself with a precious 2 hours before bedtime. How do you spend this time? Perhaps you cozy up with a source of entertainment and lose yourself in narratives that transport you to distant worlds. In these little snapshots of life, familiar objects seamlessly integrate into the rhythm of our existence in our day-to-day activities. During this reflection, how many times did you interact with technology? How much time did you spend in digital environments? And were those interactions positive, negative, and do you even remember them? And now we can all open our eyes and turn on our cameras. I know the first time that I went through this, I was kind of surprised. So those same questions I asked at the end are here that we can reflect upon.
Eve, how you doing? Are you having fun?
Yeah, we had some great chats, Rachel, Madeline, and I, and then Tyler hopped in just talking about lots of things, but a lot around like societal pressure to always look connected. So on our phones and what it feels like when we don't have technology around us, that feeling maybe like isolation and feeling like the odd one out. So that was like some of the themes from our chat.
Oh, that's so interesting. For those that just came in, they were just saying, like Eve was saying, they were talking about how sometimes you have to look connected, and now it's like a perspective or appearances thing that you have to keep up. I imagine most especially at work.
Just anywhere, even socially, like commuting, walking, being at the
Mm.
restaurant, whatever.
Gord, good to see you. What was something that came out of your convo? I know it was speedy.
We were talking about the crossover actually to parenting and some of the challenges with younger kids, and sort of reflecting on our digital well-being as the parent versus the child. And I know with my kids anyways, they're like throwing back at me how much I'm on my phone and how much I'm trying to limit them, kind of thing. And yeah, so it's an amazing field to be working on because digital well-being crosses into everything, right? Like it's not just corporate or volunteering, or it goes into parenting, into what the kids now are growing up with.
I feel like that is like a very poetic way to end this, actually. Digital well-being goes into everything. I couldn't agree more. And you know what? That was just 10 minutes. Could you imagine if we spent, oh my gosh, 30 talking about this stuff? 1 hour talking about this stuff, what we could truly accomplish in organizations. So y'all, we're at the end of our hour. It's very quick, very snappy. As we go, we'll take what works, take what doesn't work. But thank you for coming to the first one. See ya.
Thanks so much for organizing. Thanks for all the insight.
Thanks so much for all this.
Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.